Our obligation is to
Listen to
reduce
this, I put a little time in on this.
and at the same time restore its creative power.
Do you still remember the intriguing, jaw-dropping, and spectacular movie named Bulworth? How it came from nowhere, rattled the existing foundation of the Hollywood industry, and purported a notion everyone saw and appreciated. What if you were told that there is more to the movie? Yes, what you saw on screen didn't just materialize overnight. There were behind-the-scenes events that made up the movie. So brace yourself, and let's run through 20 weird facts you didn't know about Bulworth. Are you ready? Number 20. Ennio Morricone was not initially approved by many.
Di concedermelo? Yes.
It's not unusual for some people not to like a person. However, it becomes dangerous and suspicious when they hate the same person because of what he is capable of doing. The story of Ennio Morricone was quite disheartening. Nevertheless, he stood firm until he got what he wanted. Did you know that while casting for the movie Bulworth was going on, many objected to Warren Beatty hiring composer Ennio Morricone to write the score for the film? Not because he wasn't good at what he does, but solely because his fee was hefty, and they couldn't afford to splash such an amount of about $1 million on what he intended to do. However, after much deliberation, Beatty eventually won the subtle fight that was going on under the surface. Despite everything that transpired and how Beatty won the battle, Morricone only had a little more than 10 minutes of his complete score featured in the final cut of the film. This wasn't what was initially planned, and even though he wasn't happy with how everything went, he just let it slide, knowing it was part of the struggle. Number 19. An underground hatred developed between two people. One thing most producers and directors fight against during a movie shoot is a string of negativity, as it can foster an unfavorable environment that stalls filming. However, the movie Bulworth came with a lot of it, and a notable one was between Warren Beatty and Jeremy Pickser. No matter how they tried to hide their feelings, they just had a way of showing up when they least expected. Not to burst your bubble, are you aware that there was a time Warren and Jeremy had a fallout? What transpired? Co-screenwriter Warren Beatty was described by Jeremy Pickser and biographer Peter Biskind as being very insecure. This was because they perceived he had gone out with his script to meet former collaborator Elaine May, as he wasn't satisfied with what was in it. Even though Warren never had anything ill in mind about the script, it was traced to the fact that Jeremy only pretended to like him until the day came when he spilled it out. For a long time, he carried a baggage of hurt, and when he had the slightest opportunity to hit it once, he didn't exaggerate. The most annoying part of this whole saga was that Warren Beatty, whom he had accused, actually refuted Elaine May's suggestions to trash the script. He refuted this because at the time, May was writing the script for a rival political satire, Primary Colors, 1998. So she was actually looking out for her own interests, not that she had an honest observation. Number 18. The movie bagged a reputable nomination. The goal of every movie is not just to wow its audience, but to enter the good books of the industry as one that did phenomenally well by breaking barriers. Did you know that the movie everyone celebrated didn't just make a name at the box office? It also bagged a nomination, not just a nomination of no reputation, but the prestigious Oscars, which its contemporaries have all lobbied to get but couldn't achieve. The movie was nominated for Best Writing, and it said so much about those who were behind the spectacular story. The categories for which it was nominated include Screenplay written directly for the screen at the Academy Awards in 1999 for Jeremy Pickser's screenplay and Warren Beatty's story and screenplay. Even though they both lost out to Mark Norman and Tom Stoppard for Shakespeare in Love 1998, they made it known to everyone that their impact was recognized. The Oscars is one of the most prestigious awards in the Hollywood industry. If they actually received a nomination, they not only etched their names in the history of the awards, but also made a statement that the movie was worth every hype, no matter how critics tried to undermine what it had achieved. Bulworth was a special kind of movie, and everyone who came across it gave a resounding testimonial. Number 17. Notable names featured in the movie. Not many times do we see notable names appear in movies, not to mention being involved in one or two scenes in the film. The movie Bulworth is special not only because its storyline was well articulated, but also because several notable names made timely appearances. It may seem unusual, nevertheless, their appearances made the movie one of the most beloved in Hollywood history. So who was in the movie? Notable American politicians, government administrators, and political figures featured or referred to in the movie include Democrat President Bill Clinton, Democrat Vice President Al Gore, Bob Dole, Ross Perot, Newt Gingrich, Pat Buchanan, Alan Simpson, Colin Powell, Clint Eastwood, George Bush, Huey P. Newton, and Robert F. Kennedy. The names are numerous, but these are a few that significantly altered the movie's narrative. These people made the movie interesting and intriguing to watch. Otherwise, it may not have reached such a milestone at the box office and worldwide. Oh well, the producers and directors should be given their flowers because no one can actually imagine or fathom the stress it took to get these respectable figures involved in the movie. It must have cost a lot. Nevertheless, every scene was worth every dime spent. And thankfully, they made so much that they recovered their investment. Number 16, a private screening was done. Oftentimes, one may be locked up in his own thoughts, feeling that his input is not worthy of being seen by others. Warren Beatty, the owner of the movie Bulworth, had an uncanny resentment after the movie shoot, so much so that he took a drastic decision. Did you know that after the movie Bulworth was shot, Warren Beatty held a private screening of it? His fears were enormous, and just to clear his doubts, he did so until he was satisfied. The screening, which was a strategy to strengthen his belief in the film, was conducted with Professor Cornel West, someone whom Beatty respected highly at the time. The doubts in Beatty's mind were so much that he felt he should not release the movie. This was because he felt it would eventually flop at the box office. It took several days of screening and positive thoughts to convince Beatty that the movie was 100% releasable, contrary to what he had thought. Though he actually showed some belief in the movie, deep down he was enveloped with fear. However, he took courage, flying on the wings of Cornel West's advice, and all we can say is that the rest is history. Shortly after the movie was released in the industry, several positive reviews began to pour in from various places, and Beatty couldn't help but be grateful for the leap of faith he took. This goes a long way to say that many times, all we need as humans is just a little belief in ourselves and our work, and we will be surprised at the level life will catapult us to. Number 15. The movie caught the attention of one of the finest presidents of the United States, 005 to 012. Not many people are aware that aside from making a name at the box office and achieving numerous sales, the movie Bulworth had a significant impact on many people. Even though many held on to their reservations, others couldn't wait for the least opportunity to blow the trumpet of its wonders. What if you are told that one of the most respected American presidents at one point referred to the movie, and not in a debasing way, but rather in a manner that spoke of honor and dignity? President Barack Obama, according to a 15th May 2015 article in the New York Times by Peter Baker entitled "Onset of Woes Casts Pall Over Obama's Policy Aspirations," once referred to the movie Bulworth. It was reported that he made a statement that demystified all doubt as to whether he actually knew about the film or not. He talked about going Bulworth, the peace states, and in a jiffy many could fathom that the then president was in love with the movie, and there was no way he could deny it. Amazingly, that was not the only time he referred to the movie. In private, he has talked longingly about going Bulworth, which references the film about a senator who risks it all to say what he really thinks. This was quite strange because Beatty at the time had neither the power nor the platform of a president to have him conduct a test run, which may have been the reason he picked those lines. Not many times do we see presidents referring to a movie. Bulworth came and rattled the long-held beliefs, setting the trailblazer for them to follow. Number 14. Some actors knew each other before the movie shoot. If there is any prayer that producers and directors pray, then it has to be for synergy in acting. The reason is that it makes the work easier and faster, not from a point of lawlessness, but actually from a point of professionalism. Did you know that most of the actors who starred in the movie Bulworth had met somewhere else and also worked together on a prior film? Warren Beatty couldn't be less grateful when he found out about it, and to make his work easier, he relied on that synergy to cast them in specific roles that brought alive the kind of storyline delivery he wanted. When the duo of Halle Berry and Isaiah Washington met on the set of the movie Bulworth, they were so emotionally charged that they quickly bonded. The crew members were astonished when they saw the two of them acting like they had known each other forever, but neither of them knew that they were indeed best of friends. When the shooting eventually began, it was quite easy for the duo to deliver a perfect performance because they were already comfortable with each other. Halle Berry and Isaiah Washington had both previously worked with Spike Lee on Jungle Fever, 1991, and Girl 6, 1996, respectively. Berry had also starred in a movie called Losing Isaiah, 1995. After the shoot, both actors revealed how they felt when they saw each other, and you wouldn't believe that they mostly spoke of the same feeling. Well, it is safe to say they are twins from different parents. Even though they aren't twins, their way of life just made them one. Maybe there is something they are not saying. Who knows if they were brothers in a former life? Number 13. Role switches took center stage at one point. Before a movie shoot is held, producers and directors usually come up with a plethora of actors and actresses to cast in the movie. However, most times their expectations are filled with so much uncertainty that they may have no choice but to consider other available alternatives. In the movie Bulworth, there were some realignments in terms of casting, and honestly, it was done for the better. Did you know that the character Rastaman was originally going to be played by Melvin Van Peebles? Shocked to hear this? Well, this is nothing but the truth. Melvin was actually cast for the role. In fact, he filmed a couple of scenes, but somehow he was removed, and the reasons were not revealed until this moment. It was reported that Amiri Baraka replaced Melvin Van Peebles during filming reshoots, which raised numerous questions among the cast members and production team. It was something they never saw coming. However, since it was necessary at the moment, they had no choice but to let it slide. Peebles, on the other hand, was quite disappointed. However, he had no choice but to console himself when he got a role shortly after in another movie. Number 12. The hip-hop track became a worldwide sensation. It is difficult for an actor, producer, or even a crew member to actually fathom the exact component of a movie that will go viral. Even though everyone involved in the movie shoot was working hard, they were shocked to find out later that the area they least expected to have a breakthrough had one of the highest achievements in the history of Bulworth. Did you know that the movie's hip-hop soundtrack, which everyone shrugged off during filming, actually became a worldwide sensation? So much so that it went platinum. It was quite shocking to everyone. Nevertheless, the impact was clear, and no one could deny it. It received an RIAA, Recording Industry Association of America certification, one that most of its contemporaries wished for, but never had the chance to be honored with. To make matters even more impressive, it was reported that the album sold over 1 million copies, establishing its name in the history of soundtracks that have made a lasting impact in the Hollywood industry. No one actually saw this coming. Nevertheless, that's what happens when you underestimate something right from the beginning without giving it the benefit of the doubt. After all, the money paid for the composer of the soundtrack wasn't in vain. It made every scene of the movie what we know it to be today. Who would believe a soundtrack that was not held in high esteem could become the cornerstone in just the twinkle of an eye? That's life for you. No one can accurately predict the future completely. Even though some seers have done that, sometimes they are taken unawares. Number 11, a memorial was incorporated. As a person, it's not unusual to love certain things to the point that they resonate with every part of you. This is because several things that we hold dear to our hearts actually represent significant memories in our lives. The movie Bulworth had many memorable moments, but one stood out above them all. If you have had a glimpse of the movie, you will notice that Oliver Platt wears a tie with eagles on it. Did you know that the tie was not one of the costumes handed over to him by the costume department, but one that represents something tangible in his life? That tie was actually an official tie from Eaglebrook School, the middle school he attended. Why he chose to use that tie over something else is unknown, but his love for the tie can be traced back to an incident that occurred many years ago. Oliver's role in the movie remained spectacular, and he delivered every scene so perfectly that Warren Beatty had to ask him how he could deliver a timely piece without having to repeat it over and over again. Well, he just said years of practice actually brought him to this corridor, plus the fact that he knew that preparation makes room for technicality and excellent delivery. Number 10, a statement that revealed a lot of grudges. Oftentimes, most actors on set try to hide the pain they feel for a particular crew member or director with smiles, but somehow the bombshell just has a way of revealing itself when they least expect it. It's quite sad that for a movie as big as Bulworth, There were grudges that were spelt out behind the scenes. Not to break your heart, but did you know that at one time during the shoot of Bulworth, a co-screenwriter made a dreadful statement that shocked everyone, including the person he was speaking against? Co-screenwriter Jeremy Pixar, in the most debasing of ways, described the experience of working with Warren Beatty as frustrating. Why was this statement made? According to him, he was paid by the studio a lump sum for each draft produced, and Beatty spent months working and reworking a single draft, thereby leaving him on the other side of the pendulum. He tried to put up with this character of his, but when he got to the brink where he couldn't condone it anymore, Pixar left the LA office where he and Beatty were writing the script to return to his family. This was a despicable experience for him, coupled with the fact that he was owed his wages at the time. Eventually, the two finished the script, but not without agreeing to do it via telephone and fax. Even though Beatty was wrong in his actions, did it actually warrant Pixar making such a statement, one of the crew members asked? In conclusion, he pointed out that there might be an ongoing feud that both parties were hiding from the public, and that the statement made spoke largely of a silent altercation going on that no one knew about. Number 9. Several years were put into the work. Every producer knows that the major criteria that drive a movie's prowess are its storyline, cast, and delivery. Therefore, to get the best results, all the time needed to put things together must be exhausted. The exceptional Bulworth isn't different, just that the number of years put into the work was far greater than what many thought. If you were asked to guess the number of years spent on the movie, what would it be? 1, 2, 5, or perhaps 4? Well, not to bore you with long talks, it took Warren Beatty 6 whopping years to write, produce, direct, and star in Bulworth. Crazy though, nevertheless he was actually looking for the best result, and he got it. The years invested in making the movie weren't a waste. It would have been different if it hadn't ended this way. Beatty saw the future, and not only that, he knew that if he was going to enter the future, then he had to put in much work, which indeed took some years. Today, everyone celebrates the impact of Bulworth, but not many actually know the sacrifices, scary nights, and personal discomfort that went into making it a success. Beatty is the kind of producer everyone wants to work with, and he proved just that. Number 8. Several awards came to the scene. What differentiates a successful movie from an unsuccessful one isn't only the height it reached at the box office, but also the kind and quality of awards it won. One would think that after the movie Bulworth debuted in the industry, it would wane gradually and eventually lose its relevance in unspeakable ways. Nevertheless, contrary to what they thought, it outperformed its contemporaries and earned itself a status that only a few movies have dared to accomplish. Did you know that while many critics were expecting a fallout in the movie, it was receiving awards that many people feared it would attain? The movie won the 1998 LAFCA, Los Angeles Film Critics Association, Best Screenplay Award, awarded to the movie's screenwriters Jeremy Pixar and Warren Beatty, the latter of whom is also credited for the film's story. This was indeed a milestone, and for the umpteenth time, it sank into the heads of critics that the Bulworth movie was spectacular in all ramifications. Even though they publicly refused to affirm it, they must have learned the hard way. This award goes a long way to show that the duo, Warren Beatty and Jeremy Pixar, even though they weren't on good terms during the filming of part of the movie, worked toward the overall good of the film, and all we can say is that they did a perfect job. Number 7. Warren Beatty met his longtime friend again. Movies are the best way of fostering or rekindling a lost relationship, and every time this happens, it sparks a warm reminder in the hearts of the recipients. While many may not agree with this fact, it has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt that it works magic when one least expects it. The movie Bulworth came with many surprises, and among these surprises were ones that struck a chord in the heart. Warren Beatty, the all-in-one guy, actually got to meet his old friend again. They had lost contact, but somehow they reunited during the casting of actors, and their bond eventually grew stronger as they progressed with the shoot. Warren Beatty first met Paul Sorvino in Red's 1981. However, their works also stretched to movies like Dick Tracy, 1990, and Rules Don't Apply, 2016. Their bond used to be the best before the movie Bulworth was shot. However, when they met many years after their first film together, they continued from where they left off. This was an emotional moment for the duo, and they made sure that every part of it counted. 5 of the movies that Beatty directed featured Sorvino, except Heaven Can Wait 1978. So you can see that their relationship can be traced back to yesteryears, and the bond they shared was much stronger than many thought. With the way the duo has maintained their relationship from the past to this moment, they should be given an award for one of the best relationships in the Hollywood industry. Beatty is usually unapologetic about his friend Sorvino, and he hasn't failed to acknowledge how Sorvino understands him to a fault. Number 6. It was Beatty's 4th straight Oscar-nominated film. Aside from the fact that Warren Beatty is very good at what he does, he has maintained a track record of prowess when it comes to filmmaking. Not many producers have achieved the kind of feats he has, yet he never allows the arrival mentality to get to him. He is always getting to work. Did you know that the Bulworth we celebrate today was actually the 4th consecutive movie directed by Beatty that made it to the confines of the Oscars? One could tell it wasn't by chance that he attained that feat, but rather years of hard work, commitment, and passion that enabled him to reach the top of his career. Before Bulworth's debut, he was nominated for at least one Academy Award for several of his movies, including Heaven Can Wait 1978, Reds 1981, and Dick Tracy 1990. This was quite shocking to naysayers because they had envisioned his downfall, but what they saw was very different from what they imagined. To cut a long story short, everyone became a fan of Beatty, and this was because the undeniable results from him compelled them into that stance. Number 5. The movie was released at the perfect time. Every movie has a specific release time, and that's because bad timing could ruin its sales in the industry and stop its relevance at the box office. Before the movie Bulworth was shot, Warren Beatty and some people brainstormed ideas on when would be the best time for its release. Several brainstorming sessions took place behind the scenes, but they weren't making progress until one of them stumbled upon a great idea. Why don't we release it during the Democratic presidency of Democrat President Bill Clinton, 1993 to 2001, since several of the scenes were related to the current season? At first, this suggestion was refuted by several others, but after numerous deliberations and back-and-forth discussions, they obliged to the suggestion. Beatty then went ahead to release it in 1998, and the rest is history. When the movie first debuted in 1998, it felt like a mistake, but before anyone could grasp what was happening, it flew on eagle's wings and became the most sought-after movie of the decade. After the success became obvious, Warren Beatty reflected on his decision, thinking, "What if I had not taken that bold step?" Nevertheless, he concluded that no one knows it all and that a movie's progress is tied to the number of people who provide honest suggestions. Number 4. A choir sang a popular song. Scenes in a typical movie are structured to captivate audiences, and most times a lot of brainstorming and creativity must have been done before they are incorporated. Bulworth isn't different from other movies that are arranged in scenes but meticulously added in ways that speak of excellence. In fact, one of the scenes captured a spectacular performance that many people were unaware of. You may be interested to know that the choir in the church Bulworth visits in South Central was actually singing to the melody of the German national anthem, composed by Joseph Haydn in 1796. The most interesting part was not just that the song was popular, but that the way the melody was sung made one feel like they were time-traveling at that moment. Why Warren Beatty chose to incorporate the choir scene at that moment is what many don't know. Nevertheless, it proved its point beyond any doubt left in the hearts of viewers. How Warren came up with all the scenes in the movie should be studied, and aspiring directors and producers should see it as an opportunity to learn from a genius. These scenes actually made the movie what it is today, so much so that even after many years, its first spark seems not to have waned. Not many movies have this reputation, even after many years. Bulworth changed the narrative and maintained a formidable stance afterward. Number 3. The movie had several Oscar candidates. Many have wondered about the secret to Bulworth's phenomenal success, but only a few have taken the time to really examine its cast. There is a saying that good things don't just happen. Most of the time, one has to be intentional to achieve them. The movie Bulworth was intentional from the outset in its casting and crew selection, and this intentionality continued even after the movie's debut. Maybe you haven't noticed, but Bulworth, in its finest expression, features some of the sleekest actors imaginable, and most of them were recipients of the Oscar. Among the cast members who delivered their best in the movie, The ones with an Oscar include Warren Beatty and Halle Berry. These actors excelled, and in all respects, contributed unforgettable scenes that captivated viewers. Aside from the two Oscar winners, several others at some point were nominees, including Sean Astin, Jack Warden, Don Cheadle, Michael Clark Duncan, Laurie Metcalf, and Paul Mazursky, just to name a few. So when you next ask why the movie made such a timely impact, remember that some of the finest Oscar stars graced the scenes, so you shouldn't expect anything less than what was delivered. These actors didn't just emerge from nowhere, they had been around for years, and all they did was invest time, which had brought them to an undisputed level. Kudos to the producers, they did their job exceptionally, and they can't be ignored in moments like this. Number 2. A particular type of filming was adopted on specific bases. Several factors come into play when shooting a movie, and one that can't be removed from the equation is creativity. Before production commenced for the movie Bulworth, producers came together, brainstormed, and sought ways to do an excellent job within the stipulated time. Several suggestions were raised on how to cut costs and other shooting-related matters as well. However, the crew decided to employ a specific filming style. Guess what they did thereafter? All of the filming was done entirely on Steadicam, except for the opening sequence. This was quite rare for a movie like this. Nevertheless, they pulled off a great hit and produced one of the phenomenal movies to grace the Hollywood industry. This wasn't trial and error. The producers were resolute about what they wanted, and because their hearts were dedicated to it, they pursued it without hesitation. The producers of the movie Bulworth should be honored, and no one should take such a milestone of sacrifice for granted. Not for one day should this happen. Number 1. Cameo appearances made the difference. Cameo appearances are peculiar to movies, but not all of them make an exciting difference. Did you know that several cameo appearances were made during the making of Bulworth? Not to bore you with too much talk, let's run through some of them, and you will be amazed at what you hear. Michael Clark Duncan appeared as a bouncer and was also billed as Michael Big Mike Duncan. He played his role so well that if you had no clue who he was, you wouldn't have recognized him. George Hamilton was also in the movie, and at one point in the dialogue he was referenced in the film's script. Why he appeared only briefly couldn't be established. Nevertheless, he did a fantastic job within the time allocated. William Baldwin appeared as the lover of Senator Bulworth's wife, Constance Bulworth. Again, he played his part without compromise, and even though he wasn't in many scenes, his appearance made a notable difference. Though these cameo appearances added a certain feel to the movie, the impact would have been clearer if they had appeared in more scenes. That notwithstanding, the producers knew better, and the job they did can't be underemphasized. The movie Bulworth is one you can't stop talking about, even if you set aside a whole day to discuss it. One can literally be so captivated that they forget about their plans for the day. This is the kind of effect the movie had. Bulworth 1998 is a political comedy movie starring Warren Beatty. He plays Senator J. Bulworth, a depressed politician who feels trapped by lies and fake promises. He secretly hires someone to murder him, but while waiting to die, he suddenly starts telling the truth in shocking, funny ways. He speaks honestly about politics, money, and race, and even raps his speeches. People love it, and he becomes popular again. The movie mixes humor with serious ideas about corruption and inequality. These are some of the weird facts you didn't know about Bulworth, 1998. Now, if you're asked which of the facts would you say was quite weird and why, let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.